Welcome to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm Black Diamond Dave.
Welcome to our version of As the KISS World Turns, where we discuss KISS current events, rumors, news, interviews with current and past members. And when we don't have anything else to talk about, we come up with something like we did today. Strap in, crank it up, and let's talk KISS. Good evening, Father Rocco.
How you guys doing today?
Black Diamond Dave.
I'm doing wonderful, gentlemen. How are you?
You know what we have to talk about today? One single question. That's it. We are going to test out our skills and our retention of our loyal listeners, subscribers, followers, friends out there. So Joe, Dan the Man, Brad Baird, the rest of you guys that I can't think of right now, please don't click off because we're going to ask and talk about just one question. Are you guys prepared for the question?
Let's fight.
Yeah, let's roll.
All right. Who was the better face of KISS? Your choices: Gene Simmons in the 70s or Paul Stanley in the 80s and beyond. And the new guy draws the shortest straw. So let's hear it, new guy. Who you got?
I'm going to defend Paul. I think without Paul, we don't have the last, 40 years?
That's a good statement to start out with, though.
Is that what it is? Okay.
It's your ass now, son.
Well, right now we got a 2-minute and 30-second podcast. Father Rocco,
Yes.
enlighten us with your experience and knowledge.
Since I was a kid, Gene was this larger than life thing more than anybody else in that band to me. That's why he's always been my number one. He had the look. He was like he had like the monster, like he had like the horror movie type of guy. Again, they were all superheroes. To me, you think of KISS in that era. Again, he's the face of KISS for that era, and it's such an imposing force that I don't see how anything could ever top that.
Okay, well, from Lick It Up on, what did Gene do?
Yeah, he made it into videos.
Well, damn it, you're right. It's a 5-minute segment.
No, look, this is unfair to you two because
I think the pro for Gene, brother, is the mystique and the image they created.
Yes, that's partly where I was going, but it was a little more specific of that.
Okay.
A lot of complaints that I have seen over the years from KISS fans is that KISS lost their edge. And we all know that, well, we should all know. 1979 was really when they went too far and they became a kiddie band. Can we all agree? I mean,
merch.
That's 77 for me, but yeah.
And catering to the kids, merch, and yeah, absolutely.
That's 77 though.
What? 77 what?
Love Gun is really the beginning of the superhero, larger than life merchandising,
but capitalizing.
But that's not what I'm talking about. Look, we're talking about Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. So merchandising and capitalizing, that should be tattooed on both of them, honestly.
Fair.
In 79, and it started in 79 for Dynasty, is the first time that I know of that you saw colors, capes.
Oh, I see where you're going.
They went too far. The sound of the music changed. The costumes changed to be from edgy, dark to kid-friendly.
You know what? Edgy's a good word that you use there because they kind of lost their edge. That the edginess and that hungriness where they
Definitely
were
the hunger.
going for it. They were hungry. Like, we're going to take on the world. I think you kind of took on the world, and then it's all of a sudden they're softening it. Let's maximize our brand. They went from that to like let's maximize our brand now.
That's
Right.
definitely gone by 79, 100%.
And and then they follow that up with 1980, and they put out, and don't get me wrong, I like the cover of Unmasked, but I can understand the fans that were, let's say, teenagers or early 20s in 1980 that stopped and said, "What the hell is this?" Right from jump. Like, what the hell is this album cover?
Right. You're getting
And
the album
then,
cover. You're expecting inside. You're expecting to see them unmasked.
Right.
well, not only that, but it's
Cheesy.
a cartoon.
It's
Yeah.
cheesy.
It's a cartoon. You are catering, whether I know Kiss never did anything by accident. So they purposely were catering to kids.
Correct.
And where I'm going with this, in case anybody's confused, is Kiss regained that edge in 1982 with Creatures of the Night. How did they regain that edge? By bringing the demon back and letting him be the demon. War
Right.
Machine, I Love It Loud, front and center again. And what happened right after that album? Gene checks out. Paul takes control of the band. And I can't call, I'm not like shitting on it,
No.
but does anybody in their right mind think that if Gene was the face of Kiss in the mid 80s that they would have wore what they wore on Asylum?
No way.
Not at
It,
all. No, it would
it,
have been a joke, dude.
would the music have sounded the way that it did sound in the 80s? Has
I
anyone
mean,
wondered, has anyone asked themselves why most of the song, I'm going to get killed for this and I know it, why most of the Gene songs on Asylum and Crazy Nights, and maybe to a little lesser degree Hot in the Shade, why all the Gene songs are so bad? Well, they're so bad, number one, because if I was to guess, he was spending about 15 minutes writing them between takes of Runaway and
yeah.
and playing a tranny on whatever movie that was that
I
I've
love when
yet to
Runaway
watch.
comes up. It cracks me up
I
every
like
time.
that.
But
I
there's
like that.
that, and the other thing is, it's like having Rob Halford re-record "I Think We're Alone Now" from Tiffany.
Wow.
Yeah, you see that face you made? Well, you're asking Gene to sing a style of music that was not befitting of him. And Paul, it was more than Gene. I mean, you can take almost any song on those albums and compare. Like, I know there's people out there that hate Crazy Nights, but the song Crazy Crazy Nights, personally, I love the song.
I like the song too.
Right. Now, just take that song and take out Paul's voice and put in Gene's voice and tell me how that would work.
The
Because
Cookie
that's
Monster.
pretty much
Mm.
what you were doing with all the songs is you were creating a different direction musically. And why were they going? Does anybody think that Gene is the one that said, "Hey, dress me up with a face full of women's makeup, put me in pinks and reds, and let's make this ultra refined sounding album"? No. Gene was like, "Hey Paul, do what you got to do. I got to go try to be a movie star." So right there, that dip is a Paul Stanley dip. He was steering the ship. He did not steer the ship as well as he could have, especially if you consider the fact that and I understand this, but you go from Creatures of the Night to Lick It Up to Animalize, which Animalize is the first one that starts to wobble and shake a little bit. Like it depends on what song. And then you go after that, like it's strictly Paul making all the decisions. It's not until you get to Revenge, and their manager at the time was Larry Mazur, and he's on record multiple times saying that he went in there and said, "You need to bring the demon back. You need to bring the demon back." First single was Unholy. Gene was front and center. All the colors started to come out, and we were back in black, black leather. You put facial hair on Gene, not on Paul, because man, I don't. You ever see any pictures of Paul with facial hair? It
Can
look,
can
it,
Paul grow a beard?
it
He
looks
does a video.
fake.
He does a video where he's doing. I forget what song it is. He's a video with him doing it.
Yeah, but it looks fake. It doesn't
Yeah.
even look real. It looks like you're putting
Mascara.
facial hair on a kid. But they did all that. They have Gene's hair. All he actually grew his hair back because he had figured out by like 91, 92 that he was not going to be a movie star. But that's when they brought Gene back to be the face of Kiss for Revenge. And then when that didn't work, which is unfortunate, they then went, if you put it all together, it's a little crazy. Like they come out of Dynasty, Unmasked, and The Elder, and they come out with Creatures, which can we all agree is a heavy metal album?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't sell, didn't do well touring. So they changed, they started to change directions. The biggest direction change ever in their career, taking the makeup off, which pumped up Lick It Up. But then the Animalize, Asylum, Crazy Nights, Hot in the Shade, and then they go back to Revenge. Revenge doesn't sell well. Revenge's tour doesn't do incredibly well in certain areas. I mean, it kind of blows my mind because we were both at the Revenge tour in Jersey and you couldn't find a seat anywhere.
Mhm.
But if you look at touring statistics, when they got out into middle America, they were unimpressed out there. Like they were playing to 5 to 7,000 people, and in New York and New Jersey they were paying to 15 to 18,000 people.
Wow.
Like that's crazy. And what do they do from there? They go, we got to put the makeup back on, and we got to get Peter and Ace back. Constantly chasing like how to sell more records instead of just doing what you do and hold the line. We just had Steve Brown on that said, we kind of figured out what the landscape was like and we put the band on pause. Right? Well, I guess Kiss couldn't go on pause, and that's okay. I just think they should have just kept chugging along. Look, I love the reunion, but as you look back on it, and to me, if you looked at the whole evidence altogether, it's just continuation of chasing selling records, and that's Paul. And I blame Paul for that.
But I think if you look at like again, this is an episode about the face of the eras, and I think if you look at Gene, as soon as he took that makeup off, it was like taking air out of the tire of the character brand of Kiss. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. So then, even if you're chasing a demon, even if you got it back on Revenge, by then, Gene, you're starting to get to know who Gene is as a person and the character outside of the makeup. Before that, he was almost like the mystical character. You start losing the mystical character, you're losing a little bit of that extra spice that you had as a band.
Sure. I mean, you lose the blood
Mystique.
spinning. Well, you lose
Big
blood
time mistake.
spitting.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
spit blood, I believe, once out of makeup,
Is that
and
confirmed? I've always heard that was a rumor.
it's a rumor. I've never seen video of it, but
Me either.
I've read it 15, 20 times that and there's no I've never heard a good answer to why, but I'm guessing it didn't look half as demonic
Right.
without the
Right.
makeup and the costume on, so they scrapped it. I am of the opinion that it took Gene all of 8 or 9 years to find himself
Hmm.
without the makeup. And I don't know if anybody's ever asked Gene this, but you could do an entire podcast just talking about what it had to be like for Gene to take that makeup off because that was his entire being.
Right.
It was different. Like, yes, Ace was the spaceman, but Ace could be the spaceman
Right.
without makeup and a costume.
Right.
Yes,
Even
Peter
Gene's
was the cat, but same thing. Paul,
Paul too. Hmm.
Paul,
even Gene's famous stomps that he does on stage. He's not a
Look
monster anymore,
ridiculous.
so you're not doing those
can't do it.
stomps.
Can't do it. He's doing high leg kicks, and no, that Gene, that doesn't work. They needed, and here's just my opinion. Larry Mazer is one of the unsung heroes in history to me because he came in and number one, he had the balls to stand there and stand up against Paul, and he had to, and tell Paul, hey, we need the demon back. Like, we can't be dressing this guy up so he looks like a tranny because if you go to Asylum, that's the worst of the worst right there. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool to look at with a purpose. And I've seen all these videos hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times. But now I look at things with a purpose. And when you look at it with a purpose, Lick It Up was very iffy for Gene. But then he kind of found his mojo a little bit with Animal Eyes. But then it goes off the deep end on Asylum. I mean, deep end. Anybody who
Linebacker and
wants
heels.
anybody who wants to question that, just watch an Asylum video and you go, "Oh my God." But then if you start to look in Crazy Nights, like there had to be a conversation like, "Hey, Paul, you can wear whatever you want, but I can't wear this stuff.
Right.
Like you got to put me back
Right.
in black leather and I got to look like a dude. Like this looking like a woman thing. We ain't poison. I ain't pretty." Like and that's kind of when Gene bailed out of the look, but the music was still going in that direction and the rest of the band was still in that look. So Gene had some limitations. If you look at music videos from Crazy, and it's really music videos and album covers. Like it's not really concert wise, I don't think. I don't really remember. But no, I think it's more music videos, which was the number one medium at the time, and album covers and that kind of stuff. There's only so I'm gonna get killed for
I
this
wish it
too.
still was.
There's only so manly that Gene can look when it
Gender
look
roles.
when it looks like he's got three other chicks in the band. And
Right.
that's kind of what it looked like. I mean, sorry, Bruce. Bruce, you're an employee. You don't get held responsible for looking like a chick. But you can't have Gene. You imagine Gene looking like he did in Revenge while Paul looked like he did in Crazy Nights.
Wow.
You
Super
would
Clash.
you would
Yeah, it
confuse
wouldn't
the
fit.
hell out of the fans, number one. They would never get to the music. So you had to put limitations on him. And Larry Mazer is the one that came in and said, no, we need to bring the demon back. And you know what? you guys are just going to have to follow because this is the way to go. He's really an unsung hero, but to me, it proves without a shadow of a doubt that the band would have been more stable throughout their history if Gene stayed the face, and
Disagree.
and the fact that Paul was not restrained in any way from going in whatever direction he wanted to go in. Even the albums like Crazy Nights, Asylum, even Hot in the Shade, there's some good songs on there. But like there's some really bad stuff on there. And there's some stuff that just don't fit them. Just by listening to our subscribers over the last 18 or so months, if I had $1 for every subscriber that put a comment and said, I checked out after this, I checked out after, they all checked out kind of when Paul took over control.
I've said it many times on here, and it's not, I don't think it's debatable. And I challenge any Kiss fan to debate me on this. Paul is still the MVP of the band overall.
Easily.
Is it?
Yes. No, absolutely.
Because he did the best he could to keep it moving. He took the band as number one his whole career. I mean, I know he did a side project with Phantom of the Opera, but he never let it sacrifice anything with the band.
100%. I don't want anybody to think that I'm beating Paul Stanley up. If it wasn't for Paul Stanley, Kiss would not have made it into the 2000s. They honestly, they probably don't make it through the 80s.
No.
Like they're done. Gene
And-
goes to be a movie star. Paul goes on to have a solo career. Who the hell knows what happens to Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick? Like, I mean, there's no way to tell. That is all Paul Stanley. He was the glue. I'm just saying that
Well,
between Gene being the face and Paul being the face, I think we would have been better off if Gene would have stayed the face. That's it. But the fact of how the band stayed together, that was all Paul Stanley.
Why I disagree is by the time I would say like Unmasked and The Elder started to come about, the makeup was hokey. People didn't care for it anymore. Gene couldn't be the face with the makeup thing. It was hokey, and his songwriting, it was hokey.
Hey, easy. You don't want to like
Brother, I'm not trying to pick fights. I'm a big Gene guy.
He just got nominated.
My favorite Kiss song was probably "I Got Love for Sale," dude.
He just got nominated for the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Ooh, babe, I want to put my log in your fireplace.
Do you know
we love those lyrics.
that is
I
my
do. No, I live for the
favorite-
I live for the cheesy Kiss, but that is why people like my wife and your friends and other people don't like them.
Yeah.
Why? Because
Because
I'm going to
not
put
everybody
my
can
log
have
in your
fun.
fireplace.
They get offended by it. Some people get offended
but
by
it's just, dude, you're not willing to have fun. It's your own problem. I agree.
Here's the one thing we didn't say at all, though. I mean,
Hmm.
if you look at the '80s era, and maybe it's not completely this category that we're talking about, I think we can all agree, regardless of classic Kiss, some of our favorite songs are from that era.
Definitely.
Million to One, Into the Fire. Like, there's so many great songs. Saint and Sinner.
Absolutely.
Paul was the perfect person to slide into that spot if the band was going to continue throughout the 80s.
Correct.
Paul
Yeah, I agree
had
with
the
that.
hairband, glam, whatever you want to call it. He had the look. He had the lyrics down.
For the
and he
era,
had
for the era, he's got a
for
point.
the era. That
Kind
is
of.
important in the sentence. But he also had the vocal ability.
Well, he definitely had the vocal ability to go helium.
And then
And
it
that's what
destroyed his
everybody
voice.
was doing.
It
No,
destroyed it,
that's
too.
what I mean.
Right.
All right, maybe it wasn't the right choice of words that people are going to think something, but he had the vocal ability, and that's what everybody was doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you just, I think you turned off the majority of your fans that were there from the 70s, and I think part of that was
That's
musical
strange.
direction. I think part of that was changing the face of Kiss. from the Demon to the Starchild, for
Hmm.
lack of a better term. That's what you did.
There's
And I
different
think there
arguments
was
for
other
different
things
categories of it.
involved too. If you're
Paul
you
was
know
definitely paying attention to trends. That's for sure.
oh,
Definitely.
right. But if you're 20 years old in, let's say 1982, and you're an Ace Frehley fan, where do you go? Like, what do you do when he leaves the band? You know what I mean?
And
Like,
we've
No,
talked about it
yeah,
before. He took and
100%.
he
Yeah.
took and
and
Ace
it
took that mystique with him. He's the one that
correct.
kept the mystique.
Hmm.
And it's kind of funny because I do wonder if they had never wore makeup, would it have been to that level where yeah, and who knows? I mean,
They
who
love
knows
music,
what
but I
the
don't know,
numbers
man.
are, but how many Ace fans said the spaceman's out, I'm out.
A
And
lot of
you
people
just
did that.
went through Dynasty, Unmasked, and The Elder, so you kind of gave them more reasons. And then in 1983, you took the makeup off, and perspective is everything.
Hmm.
You gave them more reasons in some
Well,
case.
that's how the hardcore Ace fans were made. That's why he's got probably the biggest, probably the strongest fan base, I would think, pretty close
But
out of all.
Agreed.
but think about it. Hardcore Ace fans, hardcore Peter fans, hardcore Gene fans. If you were a hardcore Gene fan, look, if you were I'm guessing, but if you were a hardcore Gene fan in 1983 and you
Starving.
were, your late teens, let's say early 20s, and you found out the Demon's taken off the makeup, like sign me up to see what that looks like. Oh, look at him. That's what he looks like. I'm bored now.
And then he
Because
starts
you
talking and talking about
take
gymnasium and all that.
because you take so much of his character
Right.
away
100%.
by doing that. What did you take away from Paul's character?
I think that's a credit, though, is that Paul was able to continue and still have the same level of aura, if you will,
Well, I
without the
think
makeup.
I agree with
Well, I
that, but I
think that
also
was
think that
based on his character.
well, and I think you guys can both agree that era completely fit him.
Oh, it was tailor made
It
for
was
him.
tailor made. Exactly. It was tailor
Hmm.
made for him.
Right, but it wasn't tailor made for Gene. When Gene was the face of Kiss in the 70s, it did not hurt Paul. It did
I don't
not
think that was a
change the.
concern for Paul, though.
No, Paul embraced it. He got the chicks. The chicks went for
Right.
him.
Gene could
That's
just catch
what
up, brother.
Yeah.
basically what I'm trying to say is when Gene was winning, Paul wasn't losing.
Okay.
When Paul was
That's
winning,
fair.
That's fair.
Gene was losing
Yeah.
By his own
on
choice,
every
though.
level.
But that has to be part of it. Gene checked out. You
But
don't deserve the same. You don't deserve the same spoils as everyone else if you're not a part of it.
well, I agree
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
true.
But how
That's true.
long did Gene check
Level of
out for?
investment.
Shorter than Paul would tell you, in my opinion.
That's what I'm saying. And
Hmm.
I think we all know, or I think we all think that since Gene checked back in,
Paul's the boss.
Paul's the boss. He's not giving that position up. I mean,
But I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't either.
well, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. Huh.
Double eaters.
Not sure how to. Well, if any English teachers out there, drop it in the comments below. I don't
No,
know.
I'm good. Please don't.
Well, we need to get you an English teacher from the South.
A
That's the only
linguist,
one that can
a
judge your
linguistics
English.
professor.
No, I mean, think about it. Like he, he lost, he gave up control.
Hmm.
He pretty much gave up the partnership, and I don't think he ever got back a legitimate partnership or any control. I mean, it's pretty obvious whenever you put Paul and Gene in the same room, and we just did it in November.
Hmm.
Who's the leader of that band?
From what timeline specifically? I'm gonna say like 82.
No, I'm talking about 2025. Who's the leader of the
No,
band?
I'm talking about when did he officially just go, it's yours? 82,
I
83.
no,
Silent.
well, I no, I would no.
After Animalize. Okay.
Animalize. No, it was during Animalize. Like
What's that,
that's
84?
yeah, that's
Okay.
that. Well, who knows when they started making that record? But 83, 84, and I, I just wonder. I have all these things that run through my head. I should have a therapist, but and just go with me on this. This is going to be a whodunit question.
Okay.
We all blame bad record sales and bad touring sales for the reason that Kiss took off the makeup.
Hmm.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay. Could Gene go be a movie star if they were still in makeup?
No.
I was going to say,
Identity,
yeah.
identity. Well, but not being known as the guy from
Not as
Kiss.
the demon. No, not as the demon, but he could have
He could still stay
possibly done
incognito,
that.
but he wouldn't have. But
No,
it's
no.
kind of
Now that you say the mystique and you bring that up, no, he couldn't.
yeah, he couldn't.
He
He wouldn't
Period.
couldn't.
have the
It killed it.
demand.
It killed it all. It killed it all if he did.
Right. Does anybody remember the first sign of this is 100%, it's not conjecture, it's 100% horseshit from me, and I'll be the first one to admit it. But does anybody remember the first sign of Gene going towards the movies?
World without heroes.
What was the sign?
Hit the
The
tear.
teardrop.
No. Wasn't
We both went there. I like that.
the teardrop didn't help. And I said this is all horseshit. Like this is
demons don't
in my
cry.
mind. This is in my mind, and I don't think it's ever been asked or answered in any way. Gene cut his hair
Oh shit! Yeah,
for the
yeah.
elder.
He had the
Now,
weird braid.
they
Yeah.
all cut their hair. I don't think Eric cut his hair.
Paul definitely did.
Paul cut his hair,
Yeah.
Ace cut his hair, and Gene cut his hair. So you have to wonder when you're someone like me, who did it first? Whose idea was it? And did Gene do it first? And was the thought, I want to go make movies? And I'm starting to move towards that. So
Had to be. The elder was his idea.
Yeah.
at least for me, I have always, always, always blamed Paul for the fact that you pretty much neutered the demon when you took the makeup off. But if you really dig into it and you look at evidence and you investigate it, what difference does it make to Paul Stanley whether he wears makeup or not? Makes
Not
no
nearly as much as Gene.
none. Gene could not go be a movie star when he could not be seen out of makeup.
Right.
So did Gene lose the face of Kiss, or did Gene hand the face of Kiss off because he wanted to go be a movie star?
Well, in some ways, it was a perfect storm. Opportunities are coming. Sales are down. You know what? It's just time. I could hear the conversations.
Right. It's tanking. It's done. We've done all we can do.
We've gotten everything out of this. Let's. Yep.
Now, let me be fair. It has been said that Gene was against taking makeup off.
Because it stripped his identity.
It has been said multiple times that Paul went to Gene before Creatures of the Night and wanted to dump the makeup. And then after
Elder
Creatures
era.
of the, after the Elder, I don't know the exact time, but it has been said multiple times. But I don't think it's ever come out of Gene or Paul's mouth. But it's been said that Paul wanted to take the makeup off before they went out on tour for Creatures, and Gene was against it. And then after the Creatures tour, Gene relented and said, okay. Now, you have to, when you're somebody like me, you have to ask the question, was that because sales was so terrible for Creatures of the Night? Or was it because he wanted to go be a movie star? Like, this to me is a monumental question in history. Gene, first question, who was the better face of Kiss? Second question, how did the face of Kiss change? Did Paul take it? Did Gene drop it and walk away from it? Or did Gene hand it over to Paul and say, here, run with this. I got shit to do in LA. Runaway is going to be a hit movie. I'm going to get an Academy Award and, do what you got to do. Like, that to me is a monumental thing to talk about in history.
It's a push. As
What
weird as that is to say. The perfect storm. Kiss could not have had the mystique and the image it had without someone like Gene, who was into comic books and horror films and blah, blah, blah. But it couldn't have survived without someone like Paul to keep dragging them across the finish line.
Oh, without a question. There's not even
That's what I'm saying. Honestly, I don't know that there is a right answer to this question.
But he was dragging.
Oh, absolutely. Through
He was dragging
all the way to what, 92? Definitely.
Which also makes it extremely impressive that this band, based on Paul and Gene, have made it through all this. Like, you could see back in the day when they first started, they had some kind of pact to where, regardless of all the ups and downs, there's some kind of glue to the two of them to be able to still be able to do some kind of thing with Kiss even to this day.
Like an old married couple. That's
right.
what they are, man. That's really what they are.
It's true.
They bicker and bitch, but they have each other's backs when it comes down to it.
Yes.
That's what to me is most admirable about the two of them.
Right.
Hold on.
And they're both complete polar opposites, which is interesting. So
100%.
I'm just saying that in general.
No, there couldn't be two more different people to be a package.
Right. This band has got so many layers of things to talk about. And at the end of the day, those two different faces of those two different eras gave us incredible music and incredible experiences. And I mean, the band don't work without both of them.
Two-Face is a good way to put that. Yeah, Two-Face is a great way to put that.
Yeah.
Which face was more successful?
Gene. Yeah, I mean that Gene. I mean that's that.
If we're breaking it down to overall cultural impact, it has to be Gene.
Yeah.
What else do you want to base it on?
If we're gonna talk it off longevity for the band,
did you just say longevity?
Did I say that, dude? I've had too many.
We're gonna have to go with longevity.
Longevity. Excuse me. Yeah. I'm from the South, motherfucker. We make words up.
Listen, I have something called Rockoish. I come out with all kinds of shit. So.
I don't even know how to spell
my
longevity.
Wife calls them Davisms.
Davisms.
I might have to keep longevity in because
I literally encourage you to make me look like so it's fun.
Next to Webster is Dave.
That's when the there's technicality
the
Tony
dictionary
comes out.
And Dave dictionary. The first word in the Dave dictionary is longevity.
No, it's ass douche. A.
Oh my God. But don't forget that band, the Double Douches. I think it's an unanswerable question.
Oh, this son of a gun, dude.
But I think it is a great question to think about nonetheless.
Absolutely.
I think we should come back to it.
For people, we could do, I mean, now that we
because my opinion will change and yours will too, fellas.
I don't know if my opinion, I think Gene was the better face of Kiss.
To start it, I agree.
But I don't mean like better in, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I definitely think.
Could Gene have fronted this band in the 80s? Do you believe that?
No, but he could have fronted the band in the 90s.
Oh, 100%.
Once he gave up that control, he wasn't getting that shit back.
No, Paul is he ain't letting that shit go. Period.
No,
You know
and,
what?
and it's pretty interesting. It
It,
is it is
I wouldn't
pretty
either.
interesting, and we can like this goes into something else. Paul was against Carnival of Souls. That was a Gene thing. So I think Paul, like, I think that's maybe part of the problem is he was starting to relent and maybe go back to a little bit of partnership. And then Carnival of Souls happened, and he was like, oh, hell no, I'm not giving this back to him. Are you crazy? Who knows where we're going to go to next? Because if you think about it, two of the most unsuccessful albums historically came
Mhm.
from Gene's ideas. The Elder and
Right.
Carnival of Souls.
And
So
and that's
was
my
Paul
point with
doing
Paul,
us
brother.
all a favor?
Who kept food on the table when we weren't selling anything?
Paul absolutely did.
Right.
But can you imagine if Gene would have seized control in, let's say, 93, 94? Do you guys realize that the reunion album may have been new metal? Paul could have been rapping over
Oh,
it.
that'd have been garbage.
Yo, that
Oh my God.
but think about it, Gene.
When you say new metal, I think Limp Bizkit.
That's what I'm saying. That's new metal. That's what I'm saying. I mean, grunge comes out. Gene says, "Hey, we need to make a grunge album." Grunge starts to go away. New metal comes in. Would Gene have said, "Hey, Paul, let's make a new metal album"? Is that possible? Is it? Are you going to tell me it's impossible?
No, because Gene was so into the new trends with music at that point. That's why we got a grunge album.
Correct. But who started it? Paul started it.
A Paul Stanley, I Do It for the Nookie cover would be the greatest.
Oh my God.
But seriously, if you think about it,
Wow. That's interesting.
if you think
That's
about it,
terrible.
Paul's the one that wanted to go in the disco direction. He wanted
Mhm.
to write the disco song. Now,
Which is
the record
arguably
company,
one of their most successful ventures, whether hardcore fans agree or not.
it is, and it was, and it still is
Still is.
a great album. I Was Made for Loving You is still a great song. Came on the radio today and changed my mood after this, by the way. Anybody
Yeah,
can see this.
keyboard. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Smash it, brother. Smash it.
Love
God of
my
Thun.
love my Apple products. I love my Apple products, but when you break a minute before we're supposed to film an episode, this is what should happen to you.
We're getting sponsored now, dude.
Apple should sponsor us and send me at least a new keyboard since I had to go out and buy a new one. Unless we're going to get Paul and Gene on this podcast, which we're not,
Yeah,
because
that's never gonna happen.
they would leave 4 minutes in. But you'd also have to get, you couldn't just get them two because they can't be trusted. They can't be believed.
No.
They're way too rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't, you need to bring, you literally need to have an intervention. Like you need to bring in Larry Mazer, Doc McGee. You need to get Bill Coin out of the
You need
grave.
Nevin. You need
You need all
Delaney.
of
You
these
need,
people.
yeah.
Like, and that brings up another subject that makes this a 3-hour podcast. Who was choosing the producers?
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Who was choosing them? Who was
Had to be
choosing?
Paul, dude.
Who was
Had
choosing
to.
Paul Stanley as a producer? Hey, you don't think it was Gene Simmons, do you?
No.
It was Paul Stanley. Who chose Nevin as a producer? Absolutely,
Stanley.
100% Paul Stanley.
Thought he'd sound like Bon Jovi.
Yep.
Yep.
Steady sounded like Paul Stanley or John Bon Jovi's sister.
Ass. Oh, shit.
That's a perfect ending. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button, just like them guys, and leaving us a comment. Hit that subscribe button, just like my little Ren and Stimpy, so you don't miss any future episodes. And check out these episodes right here, down. They're down there. That's where
No, they're up
now.
here for me. Yeah.
No, they're on the side for you. Anyway, as always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us. And don't forget, we should all lead with love and take care of each other. Peace out, Hooligan.
Take care,
You idiot.
Oh, boy.